I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight back at the Dandenong Club. And have we got any visitors here? There's one hand up there. If you'd like to maybe stand up and introduce yourself. And I think traditionally you've got to tell us what sort of car you drive as well.
Good evening, everybody. Yes, this is our first meeting. We've been members for about 18 months, but never got around to doing the DA till just a few weeks ago, and really enjoyed it, thoroughly enjoyed it. Best weekend we've had for a long time. So thought we'd now start to participate in a bit more. We're just in the baby Landcruiser, the Prado 150. So myself and Helen.
Okay. Welcome. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I came here as a visitor about 2 months ago, and today I signed up as a member. So I'm back.
Okay, my name is Peter. I am new and old for this member because I joined Toyota Landcruiser Club 2003 and reinstated my membership and Kirsten recently. Okay, so and we've got Toyota Landcruiser 105.
Good. Thank you.
That's Kirsten, and Helen didn't stand up either. So we also have Kirsten and Helen.
Well done. Welcome to all of you there. They keep coming.
Hi, everyone. It's actually my second meeting. I was in Chadstone last month as well, and I put a post up on Facebook. So thank you for the encouragement. I just joined the club 2 months ago. Mainly because I picked up a brand new V8, the last person in Victoria to ever get a V8. So thank you. So my good friends, Brad and Tony Brandt, they actually, met me last month, went under my V8 and they checked the recovery points and so on. I'm still feeling a bit precious for my V8 because it still smells brand new. So I know that I've got to go for DA. I've got to probably avoid the scratches, but I was told that, they'll take care of it when it comes to scratches. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. But thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much and welcome to you all. Now, there's a bit of rules with Zoom members. They can put their hand up to ask topic-related questions during the meeting. Unrelated questions to be asked during general business. We'll go straight on with our guest speaker, who I believe is here. But it's Peter Tourette, and he's from now RapidMat, which is a digital twin geospatial data specialist. So welcome, Peter.
Things, etc. And she said, "What do you do for a living?" And so I have a mapping company, but not mapping like you would think of traditional maps. We map objects and events in a digital sense. And what do you do in the company? Oh, well, I kind of run it, but I specialise in GPS, or what it is these days, GNSS. She goes, "Oh, you should be a guest speaker." And I foolishly, without thinking, thought, "Yeah, I'll give it a go. I'll whatever." And I've had a presentation that I've been delivering in various forms for a couple of years. And last year I did 7 presentations, both here and overseas, and it was really well accepted by the people I spoke to. But I didn't consider the audience I have tonight. So I've modified it somewhat, made it less jargony, not too technical, but the whole idea is to tell you a little bit about GPS when it first came to Victoria, what it was then, and what it's morphed into. And I hope you find it interesting. I made the mistake because I find it very interesting that you'd be interested as well. But let's see how we go. So we can put it up on the screen. Okay, so it's all about innovations in GNSS, and that's one thing that's kept me interested in GNSS, for all these years. It has just evolved and evolved and evolved from something that was unknown to something that everybody has in their pocket. First slide, please, David. So that's my background. I was a geodetic and topographic surveyor. I worked for the government for 17 years in surveying. And I first used GPS in 1986 on May the 5th. I did not realise at the time what a big thing that would become. That the purpose of using GPS at that point was to go and do a survey in Western Victoria. Next slide, please. Okay, so there's a team that did the survey, and it was the first time, as far as we know, that GPS was ever used in Victoria. The equipment came in from Canada a couple of weeks before. They did a job up in Darwin, one near Broken Hill, and then down into Victoria. So it was a very, very early days. And you can see how big it is. That's the size of a small suitcase. That particular unit was worth $90,000. It was useless by itself. You needed at least two to be able to difference the locations. In our case, we used three, which meant that we would get three lines instead of one line, made it more efficient. If you go back about 2 or 3 years before that, a GPS receiver was $250,000 US. So they've come a long way since then. So we had three Trimbles worth $90,000. None of us had any idea what an impact GPS was going to become. It's like electricity. You start to use it, and then all of a sudden it's everywhere and everyone's got it and they're using it for all kinds of purposes. I was just saying, I was sitting next to Bill Black, you probably all know Bill, that if we had have known how important it would become and what we weren't making history, but what we were doing was historic, we would have taken a lot more photos. So we've just got a few scant photos. Next slide, please. Oh, there's Bill. Do you recognise him? If you could hit the button again. What, next slide? Oh, there's Bill. That's that. So GPS has changed, but I don't think Bill has it all. He looks pretty much the same, maybe a bit. Yeah, well, if we go to the next slide. Okay, so that's the extent of the job. Previously, if you had to try to do that by traditional means of theodolite and laser, it would have taken literally years because there were places there you couldn't see more than a few hundred metres in a direction. The traditional method of doing trig work, it took line of sight. That's why most trig points are on the tops of hills. In this case, we didn't need line of sight. We just needed to be able to see the same satellites. We needed, well, line of sight to the sky, but certainly not line of sight between each other. And we could do quite long baselines. So it was the reason for the job was 1 in 25,000 mapping, which is 4 centimetres to the kilometre. When you pull out your maps, some of them from HEMA will be 1 to 150,000. If you get the ones from the government, they'll be 1 to 100,000, which is 1 centimetre to the kilometre. 1 to 50,000 and 1 to 25,000. This was for the 1 in 25,000 mapping. Not to service four-wheel drivers, but basically it became the basis of our knowledge of the area. They would make thematic maps to do with land use. They'd use it for planning. They'd use it for all kinds of things. So it was a pretty important program we were on. The whole survey between the south of Hamilton to up to Eatonhope and right across to the South Australian border took 10 days. And that would have taken years to do the same job in a traditional method. We had 2 periods where we had a bit over an hour of GPS coverage. In other words, enough satellites above us, and 4 was the minimum. And I think the maximum we got to would have been probably 6, maybe 7 satellites. And we had those 2 one-hour periods, and that's how long we had to observe at both ends. The actual GPS receivers had no memory, so we had to record it to a laptop computer. The laptops were a basic 286, had no hard drive. So we had to load DOS every time into 640K of RAM. That's 2/3 of a meg, which is, it would seem like a lot at the time. And we would record to a 360K disk, which is about 1/3 of a meg. So we've come a long way in a lot of things. The satellites were only above us in Australia for two periods. We would get up at 2:30 in the morning, have breakfast to try and be out on top of a hill or an appropriate mark by 4:30 to do an hour's observations, pack up. 2 of the people would rush off to somewhere else, set up again, and then do another hour's observations. And we all had to be running at the same time for those answers to be good. So you get a fair idea that we've come a long way since then. These days, if we were to do a GPS survey, you'd send out someone out of university or someone who just had the knowledge. They'd go out, one person, turn it on, take a reading, and they'd be done. They could go back home because it is that quick these days to get down to literally sub 10 millimeters. It's a very, very easy thing to do. In my office, I'll often option up a receiver for the higher accuracy. I'll test it, and it's not uncommon to see 3 or 4 millimeters accuracy. It's that good now. Next slide, please. Oh, there we go. That's the Trimble 4000 that we first used. That's me, and the moustaches were very fashionable then, and apparently they're back now. The The first GPS, yeah, we went through that. No hard disk drive, 640K. If you press the button again, please, Dave, the antennas were large and they had to be oriented to the north. So they all had to have the same electrical center. Even in those days, if we had I think it was a 30-foot cable and a 100-foot cable, and depending on which cable we used, we had to put a delay for the speed of light for the signal traveling down the cable to the antenna. It was really rudimentary. If we press the button one more time, you'll see the ones that the actual government bought. That's a 1987 model. And ladies and gentlemen, I own a 1987 model. I've never turned it on. It just sits there for nostalgia for me because it's probably one of the most interesting, well, that would be the most interesting job I've ever done in my life, was using GPS for the first time. And it became a regular thing that we would do as part of our job. I'm sitting on the antenna box there. You won't recognise where that is, but I'll tell you where it is. It's Mount Tingaringi. Does anyone here know where Mount Tingaringi? Yep, that's the trig up there next to the can. And yes, it just even getting to the trigs. Well, as you know, we love our four-wheel driving. That was part of the job, and it was a very pleasurable part of the job. Okay. Yes. So the government bought 2 and RMIT bought 1, and they would have them for 4 months a year. We'd have them for 8 months a year, and it kind of worked. Really, it worked like that. It was a good arrangement. You would think then if we'd spent 180,000, they'd be around for quite a few years. A new model came out, well, maybe 2 or 3 years later. They were cheaper, they were better, they ran on camcorder batteries. That would have been, I would think, about 2.5 years later, because I was still there when it happened. I actually left the government in 1991 to go into business to sell GPS because I believed in it. Most people had never heard of GPS. I put an ad in a marine yearbooks, people that should know about GPS in those days, and they put down Global Star, the GSP experts. So they couldn't even spell GPS. So next slide, please, Dave. Okay, so there's where we've come from. They were large, they were heavy, they were expensive. And typically, if you didn't do any corrections, you would be plus or minus 100 metres of accuracy. And most of that inaccuracy was purposely introduced by the American Department of Defence because they felt if people had higher accuracy, it would be a threat to them because anyone could buy a handheld receiver in those days, even though they were kind of weird. I should have bought one. I've got a 1990 Sony Pixis. So they were 10. Then 100 metres went down to 5 to 15 metres when Bill Clinton took away the purposeful degradation after an event with a passenger airliner going into North Korean airspace. And so it was taken off. And I actually watched the GPS as each satellite in turn was brought up to greater accuracy. It was something they introduced called user range accuracy, and they took it from 32 metres down to 4 metres. So really improved it. Now with a good GPS these days, you can, if you had a good view of the sky, you can turn it on and you will literally get sub-metre accuracy without any corrections whatsoever. There was a system around the Australian coastline called the AMSA base stations. It was for near-shore navigation, and it was basically designed to take the 100-metre accuracy we originally had down to a metre. That was turned off more than 3 years ago because quite simply the GNSS, as they are these days, and we'll talk about that in a moment, is so accurate that it became completely redundant. And most of the coastline was covered. They had HF radio stations, medium wave radio stations right around the coast. There was quite a few of them, and it was expensive to maintain. They're simply not needed. We've gone to differential corrections so that now, instead of being uncorrected, we can get corrections through the internet if you have a local base station. But there's a new system, and it'll come up a bit later again, called SouthPan. Your taxes, my taxes, and the New Zealand population's taxes have committed $1.2 billion to run it for the next 20 years. And that basically gives us about 300 millimetres accuracy anywhere in Australia or New Zealand, simply by going out and turning on a good quality GNSS receiver. And has been an absolute boon for industries from forestry, arboriculture, archaeology, geophysics, just so many industries that are going to benefit from having that level of accuracy for free simply by turning their receiver on. Okay, so yeah, and also the equipment's gone from being highly specialised to now being a tool, being location that can be put into a smartphone or a tablet for all kinds of industries, like the ones I mentioned before, like utilities who are mapping underground assets so that when you go out, you don't get utility strikes. So they map them when they put them in the ground now. Next slide, please, Dave. I'll have to see what they are. Yeah, we kind of covered that, but you can see the difference. Next slide, please. I thought I'd actually hid this one because we kind of done it. Next one, please. Yeah, antenna box, small little antenna up there. Next one. Okay. So this is one of the big things that's happened is we went from when Bill and I were out doing that survey of having maybe 4 or 5 or 6 satellites available to us to this is what it was in 1992, where there were next click again, please, Dave. You can see there's 3 periods there. Anything below that line, you can't get a position because you need at least 3 satellites to get a 2-dimensional fix and at least 4 satellites to get a 3-dimensional fix. So if you press the button again, Dave, though at that time, you can actually not get a position. There's a video I have of the Gulf War in 1990 where the lieutenant is talking about how for 2 half-hour periods of the day, there was no GPS. And so they kind of stopped the war because they could no longer navigate through the desert effectively because they were getting so used to GPS as it was those days. Next satellite, please, Dave. Okay, this is what it is now. This is quite recent. Can't remember what the date is, but that'll be in the last few months. The top one is the number of satellites available, the number of GPS satellites available compared to time. So you can see at midday there, you've probably got around, I can't see from here, but around 10 satellites. If you add other constellations, and at the moment, there's GPS, and we still refer to as GPS, just like we refer to tissues as Kleenex. Pass me a Kleenex. I'm going to hoover the house. They become the name. So we call it GPS, but it's actually now called GNSS, the Global Navigation Satellite Systems. There are 4 global systems: the American GPS system, we've come to know and love, the Russian GLONASS system, the European Galileo system, and the Chinese Beidou system. And what this is showing is GPS alone will give you between 7 and 11 satellites, averaging 9. GPS and GLONASS is 12 to 20 satellites, so you're averaging about 15. And if we use GPS, GLONASS, Galileo, and Beidou, we get 35 to 48 satellites in sight above 10 degrees above the horizon throughout the day. And if we add a regional system called QZSS, which is from Japan, we pick up another about 4 satellites. Now, that's a massive amount of satellites. And what it does, it increases the performance. So all of a sudden, if you've got some satellites behind some tree trunks or buildings or whatever, and there's little gaps, you'll probably have satellites in those little gaps because how well the satellites are spread is a big determinant of how accurate your reading will be. So it's really stepped up, and it's even going to get better. They're bringing in new frequencies. They've just released a new frequency, which increases performance and gives us extra services. You can, with the right GNSS, go into the middle of the big desert with no internet, turn it on, and using a service of space-delivered corrections, literally get 40 millimeters accuracy in the middle of the desert with no internet by getting corrections from Inmarsat. That's what it's come to. I hope you're finding this interesting because it still blows my mind, and I deal with it every day, and I've been dealing with it for 38 years. Next slide, please. Okay, so there's the accuracy without any corrections. It's 882 millimeters where the top arrow is, and that's not corrected at all. And that's the kind of accuracy we can get now, which used to be plus or minus 100 meters. Next slide, please. Yes, and that just says that's why they turned off the AMSA base station system. And that it's nearly 3 years ago. Next slide, please. That's what we get when we use Southpan. It says 214 millimeters. That's because I had a good view of the sky, but that is just simply by turning it on and waiting a couple of minutes, and I get that level of accuracy. Next slide. That's what's called RT. Oh, sorry, that one there is Atlas H10. The one I said it'll do 40 millimeters. It's doing 37 millimeters there, where you can see the horizontal root mean squared, and that's without any local base station. Next one. And there's 4 millimeters in RTK. I've never failed to be amazed at what it delivers. What's really interesting these days, it's no longer the realm of surveyors. A lot of the GPS, I still have got two buttons. One turns it on and off, and the other one tells you how much battery life you've got. And people link it to their smartphone, their Android or their iOS phone, a Windows tablet, maybe an iPad or an Android larger tablet, and they use custom written software for what they're doing, whether it's mapping archaeological objects, whether it's mapping underground utilities, or on a timber harvester in the bush to stop them encroaching on no-go areas such as within 5 metres of a watercourse. They do that in the cabin, and they don't have to worry about it. They turn the power on, it comes on, the iPad fires up, and they can actually see where they are, and they can see where the boom is on the timber harvester. In fact, my largest customer is a state forestry organisation, and they have bought about 85 units already. Some of them RTK and some of them sub-metre. Next slide, please. Okay, so multi-constellation is one of the big things that we have now that we never had before, that all those more satellites, the more redundancy, etc. And we did talk about them, American, Russian, European and Chinese. And we have the local system, which is a QZSS, a quasi-Xena satellite system, which is it doesn't stand by itself. It's an augmentation of GPS. The Japanese put it up and they put them high in the sky so they get better in-city penetration. And it works really well. More frequencies. Next slide. This is where I probably got a bit too technical, but keep going. SouthPan, that's the name of the system. It's a satellite-based augmentation system. They've been around for 25 years. The first one was in America. It was called the Wide Area Augmentation System. We're the 5th country in the world to have it, and our system is very, very, very good. Atlas is a commercial service. It will deliver the sub-metre accuracy down to, a couple of 100 mil, and then you can subscribe to 2 higher levels, which is where you can get down to the 37 mil. Next slide, please. The other thing they do is you can integrate the GPS to other sensors. So you can be out there with a GNSS and you are mapping, it could be service pits that you can't get to because they're in the middle of the road. So you can use a reflectorless laser. It'll take your position, take the bearing and distance from the laser and tell you what the coordinates are of what you've hit. You can have it into a subsurface detection system. So as you walk down and you're detecting the pipe underground because you're inducting a radio wave into it, you keep pressing the button and it'll map that pipe in real time. In fact, if you have an internet connection, you can map it straight to the desktop back at the office. But I don't know anyone who actually does that. But you can also put them in with what they call inertial measurement units. So as you're getting down the road, you're updating your position up to 400 times a second, and it'll take into account any pitch, yaw or roll of the vehicle, plus a wheel encoder to give you distance. So you go into a tunnel, you come out the other end of the tunnel a kilometre later, and you might only be 200 millimetres out because you had this inertial system. And they can get quite expensive. They start at about $15,000 and go up to $300,000. I've never sold a $300,000 one, but I have sold a $150,000 one for an aircraft that would map in the air. And as the plane moves around in 6 degrees of freedom, it will give you real world coordinates on the ground because it has those IMUs. So you don't need to put ground control in. If you're in hazardous areas like bushfire or a war zone or a flood or a chemical radiation spill or whatever it might be, it's pretty handy. Next slide, please. There's the ones with the laser interface. Next slide, please. Okay, so Victoria led Australia in the introduction of putting in base stations. What a base station is we put the base station antenna on a point of known value. And that way we can calculate the errors in the distance from the satellite to Earth, and we can then tell all the other receivers in the area through the internet or through a radio link what those errors are, and they're corrected. Victoria was a very, very early adopter in the world, let alone Australia alone. And Victoria is the only state to have complete coverage for base stations. We don't have complete coverage for mobile wireless data from Telstra. I think Starlink's going to fill a lot of those gaps in. If you're in the middle of Wodonga Valley, you can't make a phone call, you can't get to the internet, so it doesn't work there. That's where you use the satellite-delivered systems. But you can see from the one before. It showed the whole state of showed all of Australia. But that's all the base stations we have. They're really close, and we can be very proud of having a great system that's increased the productivity and the economics of Victoria. Next slide, please. Galileo HASS. That's the European system, and it's a high accuracy service. It will deliver corrections from each satellite rather than from a communication satellite. It's free, and the best I've done out of it under its current state is 58 millimeters accuracy. That's just over 2 inches accuracy for free, because I had a receiver that was capable of doing it. It took quite a while to get there for technical reasons. It wasn't sending the ionospheric corrections, so it took a bit longer. And I think Starlink's going to have a big influence of delivering corrections into areas we couldn't previously get into, because we will have, like in Victoria, base station coverage completely. We just can't get that data unless we've got something like Starlink. Next slide. There's the summary. I think one of the most important things to come out of it is that it's no longer a specialist piece of equipment at the professional level. There's a lot of professionals who use it now and get incredible value. In the last 2 weeks, I have delivered over $170,000 worth of these units into financial year. It's not my normal way I sell, but it's gone out to people like 8 units to Deaker in Bairnsdale, and they rang up and they just said, we can't believe the performance we're getting. And that's not anything to do with me. It's just the technology has come so far that it performs really well. In the old days, you get near a tree, it would kind of start to, not work as well. But now they're just so sensitive and so good. I've had South Australian Water. They're adopting them, and they're getting great value. Although I must say I did have a relationship with them that in 2004, they bought 101 GPS off me for all their maintenance crews. And then I had the pleasure of driving around South Australia for 3 weeks, training people from Ceduna to Mount Gambier up into the Riverlands. It was a great job. I didn't realise that South Australia was nearly the same size as New South Wales and Victoria put together. Not too much above the Goyder line across Port Augusta there, but it was a great job. So look, they're better than ever. I find that interesting. I'm hoping you found it somewhat interesting. At least I had a picture of Bill there to take the pressure off me. And if you do have any questions, I'd be happy to take them. You can either, I don't know whether you have questions now or come and see me later.
We've got a couple of questions online, so I'll just read those while Megan's running down to get that. From Mark Emerson, do you know if it is true that the US military severely reduced the accuracy of the satellites during the Desert Storm War, and the US military corrected for it, resulting in the Iraq missing targets?
The purposeful degradation was called selective availability, and when Bill Clinton had it taken off, they reserved the right to reintroduce it. That was I think it was the 1st of May 2000. They've never reintroduced it, so it's been accurate since then. So it wasn't introduced for the Gulf War. It was there then. It did get turned off when something happened in Haiti in the mid-90s. It was turned off for about 2 days and everything was really accurate. Then they put it back on again. The military when we were getting 100 metres plus or minus, the military had a P code, and all military receivers were top secret items, and they were getting the higher accuracy of sub 10 metres in those days. So they had the accuracy, and we poor civilians didn't, unless we had a whole lot of processes around it which were cumbersome, but theirs weren't cumbersome. So I don't know whether they disturbed the Iraqis or not, but there was a dithering of the accuracy. I could tell you how they did it, but that's kind of not that interesting.
You spoke about using satellites in the early days. Were they the US military satellites, or was it something else?
No, it was the American Department of Defense satellites, the GPS system, which it's actually a lot older than people think. It was conceived, I think it was 1972, in a meeting they had at the Pentagon over a weekend called the Lonely Halls meeting. If you ever have a chance, I found this fascinating. It's a YouTube video. If you put in the Lonely Halls meeting, you will. It was just amazing what they achieved. For instance, they had 4 choices of how the technology would work. 3 of them were active and 1 of them was passive. And what that means is, if it's active, if you had a receiver on the ground, you would have to have a kind of a code for you to be able to access that signal. Unlike turning on the radio and hearing 3AW, you would have had to be like linked to it, and that would restrict the number of users you could have. But what they decided to do was not use any of the 3 active frequency options. They used a passive frequency, which means everybody can receive it. And the technology of CDMA, code division multiple access, was invented for GPS, which I found that out when I watched the Lonely Halls meeting video, which is a great one. Was there a second question came in? Yes.
Yes, there was. The second question was, what is the current time delay due to their distance from the Earth for signals to receive from the satellites?
It's pretty much the same. The physics would be the same this year as it was 30 years ago, the same as it was 100,000 years ago. It varies depending on how far away they are, but it's roughly 7/100ths of a second. So, and if you, I did think, I wonder whether they would be interested to see how the position is actually determined. But basically, I'll explain it like this. Because all of the satellites are on exactly the same time, if you froze them, then we would know where they are, and you could measure the distance from each satellite to where you are on Earth. That's where you are. And that's exactly what happens, is that all the satellites are at exactly the same time to the nanosecond, and they synchronize with your GPS. So your cheap little quartz clock in the GPS is synchronized to these atomic rubidium and cesium clocks in the satellites. They know when the signal left, they know when it arrived, they multiply it by the speed of light, roughly 300,000 kilometers per second, and that gives them the distance. And the intersection of those distances is where we are. For instance, if I said I was 20 kilometers from the GPO in Melbourne, I could be anywhere from St Albans to Nunawading, pretty much, couldn't I? If I said I was 20 kilometres from the Channel 9 tower, now I can be in 2 places. But if I said I'm also 20 kilometres from the tower at Moorabbin Airport, that will absolutely pinpoint where I am. With GPS, we need an extra satellite to account for solving time. And that's what they do. And that in itself is interesting. And here's one little thing that probably doesn't matter, but they actually had to change the time on the clocks on the satellite because of Einstein's special theory of relativity. So it's a few millionths of a second different because of the effect of the speed they're moving at and the gravitational effect of the Earth, etc. There's some very smart people. And in this movie, in this video, the Lonely Halls meeting, they're in awe of each other's intelligence and just how good they are at what they do to conceive. It's like they're all got Tesla's brain, where he could conceive something and go and make it happen rather than having to do 1,000 experiments until one worked. They're just amazing. And they didn't know if GPS was going to be a thing to continue with. So companies like Magellan and Trimble were not wanting to put a lot of money into product development because they could have turned it off at any time. The military did not want GPS. They were happy with what they had. And then they did these amazing tests where they were dropping bombs that were full of sand in the Yuma Desert near Barstow between Las Vegas and Los Angeles. And they kept hitting the target with these dummy bombs all the time. And the military didn't believe it. They said, okay, we'll put a chair out there and you sit on the chair and see how you go. And they wouldn't do it. It was just so phenomenal, and they conceived it. Do you remember back in 1979 when the Iranian students held the American embassy hostage in Iran? And they tried to rescue them. And what they were doing was they were going to go in helicopters, grab them and take them out. They had to do it when the satellites were over Iran because they actually had this GPS in their helicopter. But it just happened that a sandstorm happened at the same time. So the helicopters were down and they had to smash the GPS and get out of there and left their helicopters. And I think they got them out. I saw a movie on it once how they actually got them out. But there was a GPS running in 1979. They then started the clocks again on January the 6th 1980, and the clocks have been running continuously ever since. And about every 2 or 3 years, they have to take a second off because the Earth has slowed down 1 second in 3 years in its rotation because of, I guess, some kind of friction. So the Earth is slowing down slightly. Well, thanks very much for putting up with me. I was just, when I looked at it, I thought, oh my God, they're going to not like this. It's all too ridiculous. But I thought I'll just put a bit of charisma in there and see how I go. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter. We now go on to committee reports. Now, first is my report. Viv Gardner organised some successful trip leaders course. And so we've got a number of more trip leaders. So we're hoping for more trips. And we've got a number of courses coming up, including the first aid course, which was last weekend and very successful as well. We'll have a report on that from Craig a bit later. We've got more courses coming up in the chainsaw course and a FEMA mapping course. We've got the major 4x4 show at the showgrounds coming up in August. I believe we've got Geelong coming up and Alison Williams down there. There she is. Welcome.
Thank you, Peter. Welcome, everybody. We're gathered here in Geelong this evening, and I think you can see us on the other camera. I think we have 14 here. We're trialling a Zoom, and that saves me 2 hours of travel and Marcus 2 hours of travel. Left home 20 minutes prior, so that was good. We've had pizzas tonight. Geelong report, it's going to be our 40th year in December this year. So the 4th of December will be Geelong's 40th year. And we're going to be celebrating that with a barbecue at the Yuyangs, and we're going to combine that with the club's Christmas party. And we're going to have that on Sunday, the 24th of November. So you're all invited. We'll provide the barbecue while at the Yuyangs, so it's nice and easy for everyone to go to. And we hope we'll see a lot of you there. Keep your eye out too. We'll be having lots of trips around November, December, and a weekend away as well. So 40 years Geelong branch we think is pretty good and worth celebrating. Thank you, Peter.
No, thank you, Alison. Okay, now we go into the subcommittee reports, and we start off with Matt Lilly with a marketing report.
Good evening, everyone. For marketing this month, we've got a little bit to report on. So first of all, not sure if you can bring the room camera up, but we have someone in the room, Jonathan Doncovio. Stand up, Jonathan. Where is he? There he is. So Brian, Sandra, Barbara and myself would like to welcome Jonathan to the marketing team. Jonathan's a relatively new member to the TLCCV. He just completed his DA in April. So a little bit about Jonathan. He brings over 18 years of branding and marketing experience to the team, including 11 years as a graphic designer and 7 years as a brand and marketing manager for a self-funded government transport organisation. Jonathan has stepped up right off the bat and will be working with Barb on and the National Gathering Committee to look after our sponsors at the event, as well as work with the local businesses in the Mansfield area. So welcome aboard to Jonathan. All right. The bit most people are probably interested in, the Prado shoot from last week. So last week, Toyota and their PR company hired out Yark for 3 days. And the idea was to shoot some social media content and some hype videos for people that have ordered the Prado, just to keep them interested in their order until they come out later in the year. So they asked for 2 drivers, and we had 2 people volunteer themselves. So Michael Martin and Graham Innes. I'll refer to them as the talent from here on in. So the talent were able to drive the new Prado around the property. I think it was a GXL, the first one they drove around. Uphill, down dale, the weather was atrocious, but they managed to get some decent photos in between the rain squalls. So yeah, they had GoPros outside the vehicle. The photographers are hiding in the bushes as the car came down the hill and around the corners. They got plenty of footage. And on the 3rd day, they brought up the altitude. Now, the altitude was spec'd out for 4-wheel driving, had light truck tyres, accessories, things like that on it. Toyota, again, were very impressed, as were their PR agency that they were using with the property. Very impressed with how the talent were able to converse in the car. They were provided a script. It was a little bit cheesy. There was a term, something along the lines of that, to say that this new Prado is the business. So they managed to change that on the fly. So yeah, the two guys were just talking about the vehicles, handling characteristics, other things about the vehicle and how it handled certain tracks and what the vehicle was doing at that time when it was going over rocks and up hills and all that sort of stuff. So apparently they came off really natural. So we're really looking forward to seeing that footage. So Toyota has committed to providing us the footage. They're going to release the 3 videos, one a month over the next couple of months. And as soon as it's available, I'll be able to share it to the Facebook group, and we'll also put it in the online magazine. I did see some rough cuts from the guys sitting around a campfire with the vehicle off to the side and having a little chat around the fire. And in slow motion, that looked absolutely magical. So really looking forward to seeing the shots they got of the property and the vehicle driving around the property. So it's something for the club to be proud of. So as mentioned just before, with these 2 activities, marketing's managed to net around $20,000 in a couple of months, which is absolutely fantastic for the club. So big thank you to Michael, Graham and Diane for helping run the event over the couple of days. And yeah, hopefully I'll use this again in the future, but there's nothing on the cards for the moment. I think that's probably enough for the year, to be honest. We'll see what happens in the future.
A great report. We want more of them if we can. Now we go on to the Yark management report, talking about Yark. And this month we've got Michael Berg giving it.
Good evening, all. How are we? Good. David, I think you've got a PowerPoint slide back, if you could bring it up. Just to tell you that last month in May, we had a great turnout. 33 members turned up. It was a very important month. It was the opening of the new toilet loo at the Birch Hut. And without any further, I'll just get David just to play. That's a little video. Thanks, David.
So what are we all gathered here today for? The opening of the toilet. The unveiling of the Birch Hut toilet. So without any further ado, we'd like Gary to make... Break wind. Yay! There we go. Well done, Gary. Well done.
So that was a great event last month, and as you can see, a lot of members turned out. Some actually did the walk down from the Hilton to the Birch Hut. So if you haven't done that, it's a really great walk. Only takes about 20 minutes, and it takes you through the property, up and down a few valleys. It's really nice. So look, like most, this is just one of a number of projects that are on the Yark master plan. So this is another one that's being ticked off. And there's another one upcoming. But I just want to pay a special thanks to a couple of the people who had a significant role in this particular project. It was led by Gary Holt. So well done, Gary. And there were lots of contributors from the members who went up there for the maintenance weekends from time to time. But there were a core group of people who did some significant work. And that was Rick Ellerton, Chris Griffin, Tony Gibb, John Mills and Gary Cooper. But like I said, there was a lot of other members who helped out. So thanks very much. Okay, so here's just from last month, just a couple of highlight photos. So up in the top left-hand corner. So once we opened the new loo, there was a big queue outside the big loo. And I don't know if you can see the expression on some of those faces, but they were waiting there for quite a long time. The top right-hand corner, that's Margie. I think she had the best job over the maintenance weekend. She was sitting down doing fire sitting, but I think she took full advantage of that role. Down the bottom left, we've obviously restocking the wood piles is a significant thing that has to happen every month, particularly in winter. So that was a keen focus. And we had the Cruisacana team with us there last month, and they were doing some updates of some of the events. So Magna and her team put on a lavish barbecue feast for us on the Saturday night. So thanks very much for that. As you can see, there's some stats there on some of the attendees attending. So the month of May 33, overall looking pretty good. but if you haven't been there up to the property for a maintenance weekend, be a good time to go. So what's coming up for the month of June? Coming up this weekend. So we've had some arborists up on the property clearing a number of the trees that had to be cleared as part of the permit for building the MPB. So there's quite a lot of foliage and stuff that needs to be burnt off. So there'll be quite a few piles of wood burning off. So if you want to come up and help feed those and keep warm on a winter's day, could be the perfect place to be. Memorial Garden, there's some more planting. Richard, I don't know if Richard's here, but he's been doing an amazing job with his teams organising plantings. Hilton Campgrounds, there's some levelling. We're trying and increase the size of some of the sites so we can fit a few more caravans, because people seem to have more caravans these days. Wood cutting, track repairs as usual, and then there's the usual activities. So once again, happy hour. It's a great time to come up. If you haven't been for a while, come up, make some new acquaintances. If you haven't been for a while or you're a new member, come up and make some new acquaintances. Great time at happy hour. That's it. All welcome. See you then.
Thank you, Michael. It's always good fun up there. And next we've got the driver training report, and we've got Veronica's not available. She's away. And we've got Shane Hornby giving the driver's report.
Hey, everyone. Veronica's away at the moment with Graham. They're doing a fundraising trip for the Cancer Council, which is the Shitbox Rally. Last I heard, they were somewhere in Queensland and heading on their way to Alice Springs. So we wish them all the best for that. So they're obviously raising some funds for a good charity and chucking some money into the off the beaten track communities. Our May DA went really well. We had a smaller group of 8 members come through with their 6 vehicles. It was a little bit cold, but it was dry. The vehicles and participants performed really well, and we were able to do some of the more challenging tracks on the property. This month we've got another 10 members coming through, and we're booked in for next week to complete the practical and theory. Hopefully we get some colder and wetter weather. Being June, it'll be interesting. July, we've got our advanced DA. We had a really good amount of response to the DA for advanced DA. So it obviously covers some more advanced recovery techniques. We might find it's wet and interesting out on the track, so we'll be able to do some good challenging winching exercises. If you did miss out, just try again next year. We don't have a DA course running in August, but we're taking bookings for September. If you want to jump onto the website, if you've got any queries, just shoot an email through to Driver Awareness. And just a reminder to new members and also existing members that upgrade their four-wheel drive, we just want to make sure that everyone's got rated recovery points on their vehicle. It is a strict requirement for everyone's safety. And whether it's to do your DA or to go on a club trip, if you don't have them on, you won't be able to participate.
Thanks, Shane. Great report. Next, we have the trips report, and I think that Viv's available to us on Zoom. I think she's over in Western Australia somewhere. Well, will we go ahead with the video? There's a video to come on here, isn't there?
Hello.
That's good. I'd like to thank Sharon and Andy McGregor for doing that video, and for Viv, who edited it for us. I've just had a message from Viv that she's sort of got nothing to report on trips anyway. So we can move on to the next one, which is our webmaster report from Laurie Miles. He's not online. That'll be the quickest report ever. Okay. Next, we're now going to have a PPT presentation and an education report from Craig Weiner.
G'day, everybody. So we've just finished the first aid course just this weekend gone past. James Azam was the trainer and did an absolutely fantastic job. First time I'd seen him in action, and he's a real professional. Very nice manner for presenting. No question is too hard, and knows basically everything there is to know about first aid. We had 22 people, which was pretty much a full house in the MPB. And they were super keen, fully engaged, asking questions the whole time. Every time there was a request for a volunteer, we had a number of people put their hands up. So it was a really energised, fun weekend. It wasn't a tick and flick exercise, though. This was a serious course. People that signed up for the full first aid had to do like at least 6 hours, maybe 7 or 8. I heard even some spent longer doing the theory part. It was challenging, but actually, and as David has pointed out, every single person completed the first aid online training, which James said was a first. Nearly every course, someone comes and said they didn't have time or couldn't get through it. Everybody actually did it. And then when we went there, we started at 10 o'clock the first day, so we had a bit of a sleep in, time to get settled in. But it finished at 4, and then we started a bit earlier so we could get away on time. So we actually did 9 hours of hands-on training, practice, discussions, Q&As, scenarios out in around Yark, and it was a fantastic experience. So I decided I needed to do a first aid course because I hadn't done one for 25 years, and man, how things have changed. I'm very pleased that I actually did it. That's a shot there of us starting on the CPR practical course. There was like about 8 or 10 mannequins, dummies there that we practiced on, which is a good thing because if you practice on a human being, about 90% of the time your ribs will get cracked if you have CPR performed on you. So it's not for the lighthearted. So mannequins did a great job. They never complained. We had adult mannequins, child mannequins, baby mannequins, so we had a go at all of them and really got a good workout. Even though you think it's going to be your arms doing the work, your arms don't do the work. It's actually your butt, your glutes and thighs that do most of the pressure work when you're doing CPR. Okay, I thought I'd just share with you some of the things that stuck out in my mind from this course, and I've called it fun facts, but some of them are pretty sobering when you actually think of it. Next. If someone goes into cardiac arrest, if you don't start CPR on them within 30 seconds, their chance of survival goes down, down, down. So you need to be able to recognise when someone needs it. So if they're unresponsive and they're not breathing properly, they need CPR to keep them going. Next, thank you. It takes, after you start CPR, it takes 30 seconds of CPR before the blood pressure gets to a point where the blood starts circulating around the body. And what the main purpose is to keep blood to your brain, so your brain is protected from being damaged whilst your heart is not working properly. Next, please. If you're doing CPR and you stop for 5 seconds, the blood pressure basically goes back down to 0. So if you get tired and you think, I'll just have a little rest for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and then start again, well, you are actually starting from scratch, which is why in CPR terms, you normally want at least 2 people So you can alternate and you have to coordinate exactly. I'm going to stop in 10 beats and you be ready to go. So it's not the sort of thing that you can actually just pick up on the day. So practice and training makes perfect. Next. A defibrillator, which some of you will know about, but if you don't have a defibrillator within reach, the likelihood of you being able to revive that person that's in cardiac arrest is very low. Ideally, you would attach a defibrillator. You start in the CPR within 30 seconds, and within 2 to 3 minutes, you've got a defib that's attached to the patient. Next. If you meet the timelines perfectly, the chance of survival of a cardiac arrest is 70%. For every 1 minute of delay in starting CPR, the chances go down by 10% every minute. So if it's 10 minutes before you start CPR, the chances of survival are very, very slim. Next slide, please. If you're on your own in the middle of nowhere and doing CPR on someone, it's highly, highly unlikely that that person will recover unless there is a defib handy somewhere. Next. So I guess the punchline is you need to be aware where a defib is if you get caught in a situation like this. There is one in the Hilton, fantastic. So if it happens at Yark, you need to try and get someone to get that defib to the person that needs it within a couple of minutes. Ambulances carry them, obviously. Most sports grounds have them now available, libraries, CFA. But the last point is, do you have one in your convoy? If you're going out bush, doing a Simpson Desert crossing, and you do not have a defib there, then if anyone was to go into cardiac arrest, the chances of that person surviving are very, very slim. They cost about $1,600 these days. They last about 8 years. So if you do the maths, $200 a year to have a defib in a convoy or amongst a group. And looking out at the crowd, I guess the people we have here are probably getting to that stage of life where maybe heart attacks are more common. And it's just something that I think you should think about. Sharon, you got a question?
Just letting you know that the trip convener has a defib that can be hired out.
Oh, great.
Yeah, for when people are doing big trips. So if someone needs one, last month on the Tuesday night that everyone was having the meeting, I actually had to call the ambulance for someone in the house, and the ambulance guy said to me, have you got someone in the house that can go and get a defib right now, straight away? And I said, actually, I've got one on top of the fridge. It was the club one because Viv's away, so it's sitting at my place if it's needed. Luckily, I didn't have to use it, but I had it there. So you never know when you might need one.
Yeah. $200 a year to have one in the back of your car. Next slide, please. There's another photo of somebody getting their broken femur, patched up. They did traction on the leg. So that if you break your femur, normally the bones are sort of like crossed over. So you pull on the foot so that they go back like that. And apparently you get instant relief of most of the pain, not all of it. And then you basically have to splint the leg and basically bind it up with bandages so that it stays in that position until you get that person to a medical centre. So that was a great scenario that we had there. Next slide, please. That's James Azam there, and he went to a lot of trouble. He and his support team, which was Gabby and Grace, they were there the whole weekend, running around, setting up scenarios, parking cars up against trees. It was a really very good hands-on practical lesson that was tailored to four-wheel drivers and people that spend time in the outback. So well worth doing next time it comes up. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the question. Now, any of the people that were there this weekend, you know the answer to this like the back of your hand, right? But these 4 animals, a snake, funnel web spider, blue-ringed octopus, cone shell, they look like they've come from different planets, right? But they all have something in common when it comes to first aid. Anyone that wasn't there on the weekend know the answer?
They can all kill you.
Absolutely correct. Very right answer, but not the one I'm looking for.
They all have venom.
Also true. Thank you. I didn't quite catch that, but let's show the answer next. The bite from any of these animals, or bite or sting, whatever it is, they are all treated exactly the same way with a pressure bandage and complete immobilization. So if you're bitten on the arm, you basically have a specific pressure bandage that you bandage from the hand right up to the shoulder. And it's really only those 4 types of bites that you do that. Redback spiders is different. Jellyfish are different.
I was going to say the way people did it 100 years ago, he mentioned 100 years ago, 200 years ago, was to get whoever was bitten to lie down for like 2 days and not move. And if you were lucky, the toxins would break down in your body.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's that was what they used to do in the past. Now it's immobilization.
But if you get stung or bitten by these, it doesn't travel through your bloodstream. It travels through the lymphatic system. And the only way that your lymphatic system works is by muscle contractions. So if your muscles don't contract, the venom just sits there. So if you can lie still for 2 days, as David said, the venom will eventually break down in your body and won't be anywhere near as potentially dangerous for you. So, all right, that was a fun fact. Next slide, please. There's another couple of patients. The guy on the left's had a stroke. I mean, you can tell he looks pretty bad in the face, yeah. And poor old Neil broke his arm there in one of our scenarios with Manda there giving her loving touch of a shock blanket to keep them warm and comfortable. Next slide, please. All right. Congratulations very much to the 22 people that forked out the money, spent the time online. We won't feel too sorry for them because we had a great time over the weekend. But if you're going to have a medical episode, cut your leg off with a chainsaw, get bitten by a snake, have a heart attack, try and do it so that when you shout and scream, that one of these people can hear you, because then you'll be in good hands. Anyway, I'd like to just have a round of applause for these people that did their course.
I'd like to maybe just quickly suggest, I think with the amount of people here and the other ones who have done first aid, I'm planning on it, and I haven't actually talked to Sharon or Viv or anyone about it, but probably once every 6 months, create a trip where it's at Yark and we go through all those scenarios and just refresh, because I was in the CFA for a long time, and even then you forget, you get out of practice. So probably once every 6 months, it would be worth those who do have it just doing, a trip and doing that practice. Just a thought.
Thanks, David.
Does the education department keep a database on who's done their first aid course?
Yes.
Because the first aid, I do believe, is every 3 years, and your CPR components every 12 months. Refresher?
There are no actual laws of the land that say that. Many workplaces, many organisations have that as a guideline or a rule. If you're going to work for four-wheel drive Victoria, what you said is correct. Full first aid every 3 years, CPR refresher every 12. But it's not a hard and fast rule for Australia. But we do have a database of everyone that's been through the first aid course. Okay, next slide, please. There's another one. This was a car that rolled down the hill, struck someone on the femur, broke it, and we're just about to start patching that person up. So it was freezing cold that day. It was like about 11 degrees, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And Gordon Alexander basically had to take his jacket off to use it as padding between the person's legs. So I felt very sorry for him that he was standing there in the cold doing that, but he did a great job. Next slide, please. I think we're nearly there. Okay, so education survey, we talked about that last month. We had great response to the survey. Nettie and I are in the process of analysing the results, what the demand is for the current courses, what the ideas are for new courses. We've contacted the 22 people that ticked yes, that I have a skill or experience I'd like to share with people. We designed a form that would actually help people formulate their idea about what the course is, what it's going to cover, where they want to run it, how many people they would have in the course, where they want to run the course. And as we get those in, we're going to follow up with a phone call to firm things up and then be in a position to be able to say, yes, we're going to offer that course, or basically it's not quite fully baked yet. And I think a lot of people that ticked that yes, once they saw the form, they thought, oh, gee, this is something serious. I've got to get up there for a day or two and actually talk to people about my skill or passion. And some of them have had second thoughts, I believe. Anyway, we're going to use that information to put on a couple of other really good courses, probably in August and September. So stay tuned and they'll be posted on Facebook and the website and all that sort of thing. So that's actually the last slide. So if you have any questions, happy to answer them now. Looks like not. Anything online? All right, good. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Craig. It's really good. Sorry, there's been one, not a query, but a suggestion that maybe the windfall we've had goes towards buying a few more defibs for the club. Now, I believe Laurie's on is online, but he's not available to do his normal report. So just to let you know, he's listening in to give us his generous advice at a later date. Now we go on to the last report before we have a midterm break, and it's the Cruiser Carter report by Amanda.
I need a new name badge, please, Barb. My name's changed. So last month, as Michael showed some photos, we put a bit of a barbecue together and we got some great work done again. I'd like to say a big thank you to Mr. Gary Holt for the use of his excavator and his expertise doing some digging and moving dirt around. It was great. Also to Ken for getting out the spiky thing on the back of the tractor and digging it up nicely. It was great. And I hope the DA course also enjoyed that too, because it's definitely now a sand pit. I've got some slides. So the merchandise, we've been working on some new logos. So we've got, obviously it's Cruiser Carter, and then on the front, for some reason, my other pictures have disappeared, which just had goats on the pocket on your left-hand side. So I'm not sure where those pictures went, but they were just a zoomed-in version of that. We'll have some T-shirts as well. We're going to come up with stickers and do some stubby holders. That's one of the ladies' T-shirts. So that's in just a nice fitting ladies' T-shirt, just for something different. This isn't a bulk buy. We can actually order these one at a time individually. As you can see down the sleeve, we're going to put our sponsors on, which is something that we've never done in our merchandise, is actually have our sponsors on our gear. All the sponsors have agreed to do with that, and we're just waiting for their new updated logos. Any questions on the merch? Right, good. We probably won't do the year, but we can personalise your shirt for you. That will be in the entry. So if you want your name on there, we can put your name and 2024. That's pretty quick fix for the price that you're going to pay. We also came up with some different colours, which I thought just made it look a little bit more Landcruiser-y, rather than black all the time, or blue and a red. Not to everybody's liking, but again, we don't have to buy 50 of them. They're a pay per purchase. So there's no outlay of money for any of this. Oh, there they are. So this is just what's on the left-hand pocket. And then obviously in the different colours, that's just the corner of the T-shirt. So it just goes here and it's on the bottom of the logo.
Can we get some patches made for those that collect patches?
Oh,
sorry, Magda.
Okay, I'll give you the logo and you can send it to someone to do a patch. Nobody owns it, so I don't have an issue with that. That sounds lovely. We're going to take a break from doing marshals in June. I've got some electronic inventory that I need to catch up on, and the rest of my crew are off gallivanting around, enjoying themselves out camping and four-wheel driving. Yeah, wineries, which I'll be missing out on. But in July, we'll ramp back up again. In July, we want to be really focused on setting up some of these events and having marshals come along with the rules in hand, and we're actually physically going to drive the events, and we will do that for majority of the Saturday over the maintenance weekend, and then we'll go and give the maintenance crew a hand. There shouldn't be much maintenance left for Cruiser Kana. Yeah, don't laugh. Because some of it needs to be done a little bit closer to the events, so we don't want to do things too early. But that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Now we're going to have a 10-minute break, and there'll be a video played during the break.
You come down into the river and then just follow us along. Yeah.
Morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Thank you. Morning, Alison.
Morning. Oh.
Good morning. Who haven't I got? Greg.
Morning.
Do that.
Okay, now we need a volunteer for Trailing Charlie today. So anyway, what do you reckon? We all head off?
Yep. Done.
Cool. Awesome. Let's go.
What's around the next corner?
We're on the Old Mail Road in the Murray Sunset National Park. We've just gone past the Ned's Corner Homestead, past Lake Walla Walla, which has got a heap of water in it, and we're heading over to McCabe's Corner.
Keep eyes on me, and everyone keeps eyes on the car in front, so everyone's responsible for the person behind them.
Yep, there's a plaque. We're here. You made it. But that's McCabe's Corner done, so that's a bucket list. I've always wanted to go to McCabe's Corner, and I've finally got there.
Once you found the spot up there, how long did it take you to walk back? Quicker on the way back. It's probably half an hour, maybe. A little third version there, just at that intersection, guys. We're coming back to the turn left here. Oh, I turn left, you guys go straight in. Miss the track. Come back about 20 metres. Back a little bit. Let's call me U-turn now. I can just call Mr. Backpack. Charlie's made the left-hand turn, Mr. Backpack.
Farmland on the right. Murray Sunset National Park on the left. Dust. Lots of dust.
Out of the bush there? There's a wizard there. Oh, mate, don't you want to run over this one? He did not run over the lizard. He got under my tyre. Okay, a suicide lizard. Straight up and over, I can go around. It's up to you guys. Bump at the top. Landcruiser climbs the hill, seeking further and further in its adventures. Charlie's up over the jumping. The stampede of emus coming across the track. Look, Jukes. We're going to have to do a U-turn, sorry guys. You guys got space to turn around? We'll just stop here and have a look.
Hey, Greg.
Okay, today's pretty easy. Probably more easy as the days. We're going over to Rocket Lake, and then we're heading to Crozier.
So we're heading east. We're on Phoenix Track. Did anyone count how many U-turns yesterday?
4. I know he's keeping count. Quick! If you want to pitch your shots, this is probably where it is, up on the top of the hill up here. Wow, look at that.
Okay guys, well we're starting our third leg of the trip. John's taking over for the Taylor and Charlie. We're going to go and see the pink leg.
Well done, Charlie. And envelopes are now yours. Part of the trip so far.
Oh, the sand, I reckon, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the sand's right.
It's getting away from home, getting away from work and being out in the nature.
Love my car. Love it. Sometimes more than week.
And your response to that is?
No comment.
And that's enough. Thank you very much. Done.
Ta-da! Okay, we're all right. So we're going to come up this intersection, we're turning left and we're heading down to the pink light.
Back on the road again. Back in the dust again. Dust. Again, mission number 1. Stay out of the dust of the vehicle in front of you.
Here we go, pink lights, guys. Not as pink as I expected it to be.
This is pink like a salt. You can hear the crunching under my feet. Very salty.
It's pretty special, isn't it? Yeah.
Landcruiser takes a slight detour and stops to investigate the environment. We're going to do a U-turn here, spoiler guys. Shock horror? No, this is on number 6. We caught many things, diversion, U-turns.
And number 6 doesn't include the 2 walking out to McCabe Corner.
He enjoyed what he travelled so far that he went back and did it all again. We're going to see Lake Becking, which is the other lake.
Lake Becking's this one. Short walk up the hill.
Look, I love all the driving and all the sightseeing, but those campfires at night, that's it for me.
One on the left over here is a big block of salt, so if you need some salt, grab some.
I've got enough flies.
Alright guys, you can kiss the bitumen goodbye. Let's stop there and do a Yui guys. Number 7.
Now to Underbull for a quick top up of fuel for some of the participants, and then on to Gunner Road and down to Whipperfield.
As a cruiser comes to a stop, slowly looks and surveys the horizons of a new park that he's going to enter to look forward to it, maybe a much more lucrative hunt. I love David Attenborough.
Okay, let's go.
Off he goes into the distance, searching.
There's Andrew. His planners look out.
Did you do it again?
Number 8. The Pride feel quite chuffed that their leader, Larry Landcruiser, has made them and taken them to places they had never expected to go. And all get together and have a little chat about the day's troubles and expectations that they met.
Yeah, John's determined. Yeah, he's having a go. It's the same problem you've got. He's just bogging down.
Okay guys, this is our last day. We're heading to Wonga Park.
He's got his pack following him. They're on the trail. He's found the scent and he's after it. Coyote creeps through the bush. cause a bullet.
Yeah! Driving on soft sand, she's all over the place.
I found a spot under the trees where it's cool from the midday sun.
It's under the car.
And he waits for his pack to join him.
Yes. Officially, the trip has ended, so I hope everyone enjoyed themselves. And I think we've had our handover of envelopes, so that's all cool.
Anyway, thank you. It's been a terrific trip, and I'm very excited you organised it, and it was a great fun trip.
Our Landcruiser always gets us home. And if one fails, the other will make sure you get home. We are brothers in arms and sisters.
Thanks very much. Next we've got the special events report, and C. Smith's not here, so Brad Meacham's taking over.
G'day all, just a quick update. 4x4 shows coming up in a couple of months, August. We're still looking for one or two on the Friday afternoon, if possible, or day, because we know it's a work day, bit hard to get people. Also, Sunday afternoon, we're looking for a couple of people to help out and then pack up. I've got to sort out the roster a little bit more, make it into 2-hour blocks instead of 4-hour blocks that Steve's done to make it a bit easier, so people can actually do a couple of hours, have a look at the show and do what they want to do. We still haven't received a notification from the organisers yet. I presume it's because the Sydney show's just been on this weekend, so they're a bit busy, so we haven't registered our site yet or anything like that. But that's not our problem, that's their problem, because they haven't put it on site. But apart from that, everything's going well. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Next, we have the National Gathering Report, and we've got Michael Martin here to give that. Oh, mate.
Thank you, Peter. Good evening, all. So we're at the getting to the sharp end of the 2025 gathering. We will be putting out and reopening the database for registrations in the next couple of weeks. I can confirm that the prices that we put up back in October are the ones that we'll be going with. So that's $150 a head for camping and $50 a day for pad sites, $40 a day for unpad sites. That's $300 registration a couple and $300 for accommodation if you are taking a pad site. We will be looking for 50% of that by the 1st of September, and the balance paid in December, 1st of December. Based on the expressions of interest we received, the chances are we will have to do a ballot to see who gets a place, because I believe we will probably be oversubscribed again, which is great. We've just about finished identifying all our volunteers for the various tasks, which is nailed down. We will be putting out all that detail in the weekend wrap in the next week or so, with the details and a list of the sort of trips that we'll be running. So the gathering starts on the Sunday and runs through the following Saturday. We'll probably have a choice of about 5 trips a day. We will have a morning and an afternoon trip to the property, which I guess we probably as locals won't be interested in, but I know that our interstate guests will be. There will be a happy hour on the Monday, which will be a welcome happy hour for everyone that's there. The Tuesday will be the formal dinner. We will have some entertainment through one of the nights of the rest of the week, and we'll have a final happy hour on the Friday, and on the following, and then on the next day on the Saturday, people will start to leave. So a pretty full agenda. We're looking to have some of our sponsors there, the likes of ARB, Toyota, Terrain Tamer, etc. We will be probably less interest to us, but for our interstators, we'll be making sure they're aware of who the local Toyota dealer is. So for those coming further afield that need vehicles serviced and so on, before they turn around, we can organise that for them in advance. And we'll be giving you a full list of all the local businesses that are like the coffee shops that we all need to know about. So full details will be coming out in the next couple of weeks, but it's really looking really exciting and very happy with the progress that we're at, and looking forward to seeing you all at least try and get a booking. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Next, we have the four-wheel drive report, and we've got Eric Bishop, who's the president of Four-Wheel Drive Victoria.
Four-Wheel Drive Victoria. We have been very hard working in the background with that VIAC committee people. I saw Steve Dimopoulos, the environmental minister, on radio recently. I saw listened to a tape where he was having two bob each way. So we're confused totally as to what's going on with this damn thing. Been to a few meetings. Went to Yea, another one in Druin, two in Druin. We've got another one coming up in Warragul fairly soon, which is the Central Victoria against the National Parks group, working with God, the local minister for Narracon. Anyway, the local minister for Narracon and I have been working fairly well together, and he's organised a meeting in Warragul for us. And so you just got to watch this space. I don't believe a word the government's telling us about what's going on at the high country, and I think it's just a thin end of the wedge for the rest of the state, quite frankly. So anybody can get anything through or get any sneaky knowledge out of the government somewhere, bring it here because we'd like to hear it. The other thing is we're now well and truly down the track with designs and everything for our new facility at Rowville. So anybody who wants to volunteer in helping the fit out build, or we have a building management committee that we're going to appoint. We already have 3 people from the LROC Club, but Four-Wheel Drive Victoria, the only members of Four-Wheel Drive Victoria are the clubs. And the only members within Four-Wheel Drive Victoria are the board. And the board can't be everywhere and do everything, because most of the members we have on the board are, some of them are north of the state. They're all over the place. So we want to get club people involved in, the management committee that is going to be appointed probably by the end of next week. We've just started up a bank account for that management committee with $25,000 each from LROC and Four-Wheel Drive Victoria to go into a pool of money for them to manage the fit out and get it started and so forth. And we're opening it up to anyone in any clubland, because it's your money, belongs to the clubs, it doesn't belong to Four-Wheel Drive Victoria, wants to be part of those management committees and be part of the build, fit out, managing maintaining the facility over a long period of time. So anybody want to put their hand up to be part of that, we're welcome to bring them aboard. This current weekend, we're having a bit of a barbecue and a bit of a nosh up at the new factory. Well, new, it's 30 years old, but the factory in Rowville. We're going to the Vintage Car Club in Norkel Road, Nunawading on Saturday morning to have a look at its fit out, because that's the model we're basing the new building on. And then we're coming back to the new building, fire up the barbecue and just have a bit of a chinwag and get some ideas and so forth, and just bring people up to speed with what we're actually doing. There's no secrets. We'll have the drawings out within about 2 months. Building permits, all that sort of thing. Inside of 3 months, we'll be pretty much demolishing the internals of the building and getting ready to kick on. So donate a day, donate a week, donate whatever. Bring your tools along and help out. So it's a club facility for club members. be part of it. That's it.
Thanks very much, Eric. We've got a video of the, is that Lerdo Gorge? Okay, so we've got a video now to That was great. We've got the AGM next month, so be nice to have everyone come along because there's a presentation of awards, which is probably the more important part of the evening. So we hope to see you all there next month. I'd like to thank especially Geelong for coming to the meeting tonight. I'd also like to thank the AV crew, and I'll run through them. We've got David Pearce, David McAllister at home. He's hosting tonight's show. We've got Megan Burke. We've got Rob Laversha, Michael Burke, and Laurie Miles somewhere up near Tokemall, I think. And but that's all. And I'd like to thank everyone that came tonight. It's good to see you all here, and we'll see you at the AGM next month, if not up at Yarra. Okay. Thank you.